Someone is attached to you because you became the kind of presence that doesn't happen twice in a lifetime. You entered their world quietly, without noise, without demanding space, without trying to impress, and somehow you ended up changing everything they believed about love. They didn't expect it. They didn't plan for it. They weren't even sure they were ready for anything that resembled closeness, affection, or emotional honesty. But then you appeared, gentle, patient, and unexpectedly comforting, and you made love feel like something that could actually heal instead of hurt. There are people who come into our lives like storms, setting everything on fire and leaving behind ashes we have to sweep alone. But you weren't a storm. You were calm after all the storms they'd survived. You were warm light on a day they thought would stay dark forever. You were reassurance in moments when they didn't even have the courage to ask for it. And that alone made you unforgettable, because you were different. You didn't pressure them. You didn't force emotions out of them. You didn't demand they rush their healing or speed up their growth. You let them be themselves, with every flaw, every fear, every insecurity, every place that was still bruised from old battles they'd never fully recovered from. You didn't turn away. You didn't get impatient. You didn't judge the parts of them they were used to hiding from the world. And that kind of acceptance, that kind of presence, it's rare. Rare enough to stay with someone long after conversations end and long after the relationship or connection takes a different shape. You became the kind of memory that never really leaves. There's something unbelievably powerful about being treated gently when you've only known harshness. Something life-changing about being understood when you're used to being misunderstood. Something soul-deep about being seen without having to perform or pretend. When someone has been wounded by past relationships, betrayed by people they trusted, or disappointed by those they loved with everything they had, healing often feels impossible. They start believing that tenderness is a myth, that sincerity is temporary, that love is a bitter, unstable thing that collapses the moment they get comfortable. But then someone like you walks in and shows them that love can actually feel safe. Maybe they didn't even recognize the impact you had on them at first. Healing rarely happens in sudden ways. It happens through moments, small, gentle moments that seem ordinary on the surface but transform someone on the inside. It happens through your patience, your softness, the way you listened, the way you made space for their emotions without making them feel dramatic or difficult. It happened in the way you gave them time to breathe. The way you understood silence instead of interpreting it as disinterest. The way you celebrated their growth even when they couldn't see it themselves, and out of that, attachment formed, not out of dependency, not out of neediness, not out of loneliness, but out of respect and deep emotional relief. Because being around you felt like being able to exhale in a world where they always held their breath. Someone is attached to you because you made them believe in love again, quietly, naturally, without announcing it or expecting anything in return. That kind of healing is unforgettable. When someone hasn't felt safe in a long time, safety becomes magnetic. When someone hasn't felt chosen or valued or gently cared for, they hold on to the person who gave them those feelings. When love finally feels soft instead of heavy, comforting instead of confusing, nourishing instead of draining, it creates an attachment that isn't just emotional, but deeply spiritual. You don't realize how powerful your presence was in their life. You think you were just being kind, just being yourself, just offering the type of support you wished someone had once offered you. But to them, you did something extraordinary. You gave them a kind of emotional experience they didn't know they deserved. You showed them that not all people leave. Not all love fades. Not all attention is temporary. Not all affection has conditions attached. And you didn't just tell them, you showed them, consistently. You didn't ask them to be perfect. You didn't make them compete for your attention. You didn't treat their vulnerability like a burden. You didn't love the parts of them that were easy and ignore the parts that were complicated. You held the entirety of them with grace. That is why they're attached. That is why their heart gravitates toward you even from a distance. You made love feel like relief. Maybe you didn't stay. Maybe circumstances shifted. Maybe timing contradicted everything your hearts wanted. Maybe you were meant to be a chapter instead of the whole story. But even then, the way you made them feel lingers. Healing doesn't disappear just because distance exists. Impact doesn't vanish just because the relationship transforms. Love can heal a person and still not lead to forever, and yet its effect remains, deep and unforgettable. You need to understand something. People remember who helped them feel whole. People remember who touched their heart quietly. People remember who made them feel seen after years of feeling invisible. People remember who stayed soft in a world that hardened them. You became their reminder that tenderness is possible. And that reminder is powerful, life-changing, and emotional enough to create attachment that time doesn't easily erase. Even now, they think about you in moments they don't admit out loud. When life feels overwhelming, they remember how peacefully you handled their storms. When they doubt themselves, they recall the way you always believed in them before they believed in themselves. When they feel unlovable, they replay the moments where you made them feel worthy without needing to prove anything. When their heart aches, they miss the calm you carried within you, a calm that felt like home. There's a reason they compare new connections to the way you treated them. Not because they're searching for you in someone else, but because you set a standard. You taught them what affection should feel like. You taught them that love should never be confusing, never be painful. Never make them shrink or question their worth. They learned what it feels like to receive love that doesn't wound. That kind of clarity stays. Someone is attached to you because their soul connected to the softness in you, the way you spoke with sincerity instead of manipulation, the way you apologized when you were wrong instead of shifting blame, the way you saw beauty in their flaws instead of highlighting their insecurities, the way you created comfort with your presence instead of chaos, the way you brought peace instead of pressure. You didn't just enter their life, you entered their inner world, the parts they kept locked away, the places even they were scared to explore. And instead of causing more damage, you brought healing. And let me tell you something, healing stays, kindness stays, comfort stays, love that feels gentle stays, even if the person leaves, even if the chapter ends, even if life moves in different directions. There are loves that shape the heart, loves that open the soul, loves that come once and last forever in feeling, even if not in form. You were that kind of love to someone. You gave them something they will measure future connections against, not because they're stuck, but because you helped them grow into a version of themselves that refuses to accept anything less than the gentleness you once gave them. This attachment they feel toward you isn't obsession. It isn't dependency. It's gratitude. Deep gratitude disguised as longing. The kind that whispers, "I hope I meet someone who makes me feel like they did." You awakened a softness inside them they thought was gone. You made them believe in the possibility of emotional safety. You showed them that love isn't supposed to be a battlefield, it can be a refuge. Do you understand the intensity of that? Do you realize the immensity of the impact you had? Most people never experience such love in their life, let alone offer it. You were a rare experience. There are people who spend years searching for someone who can make love feel like a warm blanket instead of a sharp blade. Someone who listens with intention. Someone whose presence feels grounding. Someone who speaks with meaning. Someone who hugs with sincerity. Someone who makes conversations feel like healing instead of interrogation. Someone who makes vulnerability feel natural, safe, and welcomed. You were that someone, and that's why they're attached to you, because losing someone like you feels like losing a safe place. Even when they tell themselves that they've moved on, they carry your influence in the quiet corners of their heart. They replay the moments, not because they're stuck in the past, but because those moments shaped them. Because those moments mattered. Because those moments healed more than you realize. You might think they found someone new. That they've replaced you, that they've closed the chapter, that the connection dissolved. But healing doesn't make someone forget. Healing makes someone grateful. Healing makes someone respectful of what they once had. Healing makes someone love differently in the future, but they never forget the person who taught them how. Someone is attached to you because they didn't just love you, they learned from you, grew because of you, softened through you, and healed with you, and maybe the universe brought you into their life not to stay, but to transform them. Maybe you were the lesson that love doesn't have to be painful. Maybe you were the reminder that soft hearts still exist. Maybe you were the proof that good people still love deeply. Maybe you were the turning point in their story. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones who don't stay forever. They're the ones who enter at the exact moment the heart is tired, bruised, defeated, and instead of asking for anything, they simply help us breathe again. You helped someone breathe again, and that is why they're attached to you. They attach to the warmth you brought into their cold nights. They attach to the understanding you offered when they felt misunderstood by everyone else. They attached to your softness after years of hardness. They attached to your sincerity in a world of inconsistency. They attached to your honesty when others gave them deception. They attached to the peace you made them feel in a life that often felt chaotic. They attached to you because you healed them, and healing is unforgettable. You were the person who didn't add weight to their heart, you lifted it. You didn't give them another wound to hide, you soothed the ones they already had. You didn't take from them, you gave them pieces of peace they didn't even realize they were missing. You didn't threaten their stability, you nurtured it. You didn't break their trust, you strengthened it. How can someone not be attached to a presence like that? It isn't about romance. It isn't about labels. It isn't about physical closeness or constant communication. Attachment like this is emotional. It's spiritual. It's the result of feeling safe in someone's energy, respected by their intentions, and healed by their kindness. It doesn't fade easily. It doesn't disappear overnight. It doesn't get replaced, because it wasn't superficial. It was soul deep, and the truth, love that heals is always remembered, always, even if they never tell you, even if distance grows, even if life takes you both elsewhere, even if years pass. Some people stay permanently, not in presence but in meaning. You are one of those people. You left fingerprints on their heart, gentle ones, comforting ones, healing ones, and those don't fade. Those remain. Those become part of the emotional foundation someone builds their future on. They might love again, but they will love better because of you. They might trust again, but they will trust smarter because of you. They might open up again, but they will open up more softly because of you. They might find happiness again, but they will recognize it faster because of you. Your impact didn't just change how they saw you. It changed how they saw love itself. And that is why they're attached. Someone is attached to you because, for the first time in a long time, they didn't feel like they had to protect themselves from love. You became the exception to their fears, the antidote to their doubts, the soft space where they could rest without defending their heart. You made loving feel natural again, trusting feel possible again, smiling feel effortless again. You revived something inside them. You reminded them that their heart wasn't broken, it was just tired. And with you, it felt awake again, alive again, open again. You have no idea how rare that is, how monumental, how unforgettable. Someone is attached to you because you were the gentle chapter in a story full of rough pages. You were the softness they prayed for quietly. You were the presence that felt like sunlight after too many winters. You were the one that didn't hurt them. You were the one that treated their heart like it mattered, and when someone experiences love that heals, their soul doesn't forget the hands that offered it. You became a memory that feels like comfort, a person who feels like warmth, a lesson that feels like growth, a love that feels like healing, and that kind of presence isn't something people move on from. It's something people carry with them, forever, in some way, not because they're stuck, but because you mattered, and maybe. The most beautiful truth in all of this is that you didn't even try to create this attachment. You didn't perform. You didn't pretend. You didn't change yourself to become someone impressive. You didn't calculate your kindness or measure your affection. You simply existed as you are, soft, sincere, attentive, patient, and that alone became the kind of experience their soul could not forget. There is something extraordinary about the love that comes from simply being yourself. Something powerful about the healing that happens when no one is trying too hard. Something unforgettable about the version of you that gives without demanding, listens without judgment, and stays present without needing applause. That realness is what made your presence feel like home. That authenticity is what made love feel safe again. That sincerity is what made someone attached to you in ways even they don't fully understand, because the truth is this: the heart doesn't attach to perfection. It attaches to comfort. It attaches to truth. It attaches to gentleness. It attaches to the people who make life feel lighter. It attaches to the souls who feel familiar even when they're new. And you were that, a familiar soul in an unfamiliar chapter of their life, a calm they didn't see coming, a type of love they didn't know how much they needed. Maybe you underestimate yourself. Maybe you don't see the healing in your presence because you learn to be strong for others while carrying your own storms silently. Maybe you don't recognize the warmth you bring because you've always given it freely. Maybe you don't realize the impact you have because you're used to being the one who understands, the one who comforts, the one who softens the spaces you enter. But someone noticed. Someone felt it deeply. Someone carries it with them everywhere. Understand this: you were not a temporary feeling, you were not a brief moment, you were not an ordinary memory, you were the turning point, you were the soft realization, you were the healing chapter. Someone is attached to you because they found a version of love within you that didn't scare them. A version of love that didn't force them to shrink. A version of love that didn't trigger their fears but instead soothed them. A version of love that didn't take away their strength but reminded them they were strong in the first place. A version of love that didn't confuse them, it centered them, and that kind of love is rare. Rare enough to be unforgettable. Rare enough to be held on to. Rare enough to echo even in silence. Rare enough to be missed even in acceptance. Rare enough to stay even when both of you are learning how to move forward with your own paths. You were the one who changed the emotional temperature of their world. The one who brought softness where there was once tension. The one who turned fear into curiosity. The one who turned doubt into trust. The one who turned weakness into healing. The one who turned loneliness into warmth. The one who turned love into something gentle again, and even if nothing more comes of it. Even if the story ends where it ends, even if life redirects both of you to different directions, know this deeply: your presence mattered, your love mattered, your softness mattered, your impact mattered. You taught someone that love could feel like rest. You taught someone that affection could feel like clarity. You taught someone that closeness could feel like relief. You taught someone that connection could feel like healing. and because of that, a part of you will always live inside them, not as a wound, not as regret, not as longing, but as the quiet proof that good love exists. That gentle heart still exists. That emotional safety is real. That healing through love is possible. Someone is attached to you because you were the moment in their story when everything started to make sense again. You were the light that showed them they didn't have to walk in darkness forever. You were the reminder that even the most wounded people can still feel deeply, trust again, grow again, and love again. You awakened hope in a heart that forgot what hope felt like, and no matter where life goes from here, nothing will ever erase the fact that you were their healing. You were their softness. You were their reminder that love, real, gentle, healing love, still exists in this world, and that is why they will carry you, quietly and gratefully, for the rest of their life.